Listening facts. Verbal communication is the primary mode of sending information that people rely on. This can be unfortunate, for such a reliance limits the scope of the message and does not respect the distortion and filtering that occurs. Nonverbal communication, which accompanies the spoken word, is often a more reliable indicator of what the message is intended to mean. Often, nonverbal communication actually conveys more of the message's meaning. So our tongues say one thing, our words in the way they are said say another, and our bodies a third. All the while, our minds are continuously filtering and altering the messages being sent by others to fit and resemble what we think they should mean or what we do think they mean. Whether you recognize it or not, the words you are saying actually convey only a small percentage of what you intend them to say. We all distort, we all generalize, and we all delete what we hear, see, and feel to some degree. Because our minds can process only so much of the myriad of stimuli they're bombarded with on a continuous basis, we distort, generalize, and delete the signals we receive to help us make more sense of them. Most of this happens subconsciously. In other words, we're not aware of it. Additionally, each stimulus our mind receives triggers some type of neural reaction, some type of response. These thinking processes are more commonly known as perceptions and assumptions. Peter Senge refers to perceptions and assumptions as mental models. Joel Barker refers to perceptions and assumptions as paradigms. When we hear a message, our innate desire for certainty encourages us to think that all of the puzzle pieces have been collected. We heard the entire message. We know what it means. In reality, we're probably looking at only 5 pieces out of a 500-piece puzzle. Why we don't listen well. One should be careful not to assume that a person is only a serial or parallel thinker, or that they will only understand a picture because they're a visual person. People can be strong in more than one communication preference area, and they can work to develop those areas that are currently relatively weak. Effective communication should address all 3 sending and receiving preferences if possible, with consideration also being given to how the information will be processed. So you're thinking serial, auditory, kinesthetic for sending. You're thinking serial, parallel for processing. You're thinking visual, auditory, kinesthetic for receiving. In many cases, you may be saying the right words, but if your receiver prefers to see pictures or feel your message, you may not be connecting at all. Making a quality communication connection also depends on how well we attend to the process of listening. For the reasons we mentioned earlier, we do not listen well. So for example, 75% of the words that go into our ears are either ignored, misunderstood, or forgotten. After 48 hours, the average listener remembers only about 25% of the information from a 10-minute talk. When we think we are listening, we are often listening with the intent to respond. On top of that, people speak around 125 to 140 words per minute. The ear is able to listen at a rate of 900 words per minute, which means our minds are going to wander and we'll allow them to. We have to do something. We've got short attention spans. We're trying to do multiple things. We've had very little training on listening. In other words, our brain is too fast for the tongue. Okay? So, it may be comforting to know that there actually is a physiological reason for this shortcoming that most, if not all of us have. Our brains are faster than our tongues. Our brains like to keep themselves busy so that while someone is talking, they have to find something else to do. We can either decide to listen more intently to the message, or we can think of something else. Who knows? It depends. How do you process information? How do you like to receive and send information? That affects how you multitask as well. In his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Stephen Covey talks about listening as he covers the fifth habit, which he calls seek first to understand, then to be understood. Dr. Covey states that most people listen with the intent to reply. In other words, as you're talking, the person listening to you is simply waiting for you to take a breath before they start talking again. They aren't as much listening to you as they are thinking about what they want to say next. Do you know anyone who sometimes listens with the intent to reply instead of listening to understand what you are truly trying to say?